kiddies, it's always interesting heading down into the basement to see what's available in the world of trash. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's way better than it has any right to be. And yet other times it's about as painful as a broken glass ghost pepper smoothie. But today's fractured fable is definitely on the good end of the suffering spectrum. 1984's The Lost Empire. A totally tubular tale touting a titillating troupe of tremendous tatas. And should we really expect anything less from the directorial debut of Jim Wynorski? My favorite part about this movie is the fact that it was literally only ever supposed to be a tax write-off. But the studio thought Wynorski did such a great job, they decided to actually release the damn thing. So let's unclasp that top-heavy sleaze docket because it's literally bursting at the seams and begging for our attention. We have 16 dead bodies, 5 cups blood, 12 naked breasts, 1 naked butt, 2 gunshots to the chest, 2 throwing stars to the chest, throwing star to the head, throwing star to the throat, knife to the chest, knife to the neck, sword through the head, arrow to the chest, arrow to the stomach, spear to the chest, 1 snapped neck, 1 laser vaporization, 1 decapitation, 1 laser blasted dick, 1 human torch, motorcycle clothesline, belt buckle throwing star, 14 Native American jokes, puns, and sayings, 1 incredibly fast exposition text scroll, 1 clunky, nudity-free sex scene, 2 magical glowy things, 1 disappearing Native American chief, 1 shower scene, women's prison mud fight, bouncy exercise montage, thorough group medical exam, 2 ever-changing eyebrows, futuristic laser dentistry, 1 incredibly lucky spider, 1 incredibly lucky snake, 1 tearaway face, 1 phallic laser cannon, exploding model island, 4th wall breakage, and smashed gorilla testicles. Our movie starts off looking like a classy James Bond flick, but quickly tells us exactly what the tone is actually gonna be. A nameless buxom beauty is looking over the jewelry counter, much to the delight of the salesman. A nearby statue's jewel eye begins to glow as shadows pass overhead. Eventually, the bubbly blonde makes a purchase, and the shopkeeper closes for the day. Suddenly, some gimp-suited ninjas appear and drop some fidget spinners that deflect the shopkeeper's bullets. He turns to run and takes a throwing star to the back of the head, smashing through the front door and triggering the alarm. Police are immediately on the scene, and both sides take heavy casualties. The last surviving cop picks up one of the throwing stars, and a ninja attacks. The cop is stabbed through the chest, but he thrusts the knife into the ninja's throat. He crawls to the statue, which is now glowing rapidly and humming an ominous tone, and we roll the opening credits. Afterwards, we get a really fucking fast text scroll explaining the plot. In a time before history, there existed a forgotten civilization, a strange mystical race ruled by fierce creatures of myth and magic. They were called the Lemurians. To protect their great power, they implemented their secrets of super science into a pair of incredible jewels, the Eyes of Avatar, shimmering stones that possessed a life of their very own. Then, during a cosmic battle that nearly destroyed the Earth, the Lemurians were vanquished and the eyes separated. It was written that whoever brought the jewels together would again rule with, fuck it, let's just get to the goddamn movie. A motorcycle cop shows up to a major crime scene. A group of armed terrorists have taken a bunch of school children hostage, and they've threatened to start killing them if their demands aren't met. The detective wants to go in and attempt to rescue, but Prager, the cop in charge, says to wait. Our motorcycle cop isn't interested in waiting, gets on the bike, and smashes through the door. The first terrorist is clotheslined and shot dead. The kids all run off as the cop bursts into the classroom, taking out the bad guys. The leader announces how many shots the cop has taken, but unfortunately counted wrong. Our hero takes off the helmet and...
Oh, it's a lady.
A hand taps Angel Wolf on the shoulder and gets a fast fist to the nose. Whoops! Looks like it's FBI agent Rick Stanton. We get a cute little flip transition to the bedroom where Angel and Rick got a little something going on. Unfortunately, we skip ahead to the next morning and miss out on all the naked, sweaty details. The phone rings to tell Angel that Rob has been wounded and they run to the hospital. Wait, that's her casual hospital visiting outfit? Rob's the cop who got stabbed at the jewelry store. He tells Angel that the devil is real and she needs to find him and stop him. He starts flatlining and Angel is told to leave. Angel and Rick hash out the details of the burglary and Rick notices the throwing star.
Chuck, where in the hell did you get this?
Our FBI agent starts telling us about Lee Chuck, the head of an international terrorist organization who supposedly sold his soul to the devil for immortality in exchange for a human soul once a day. I'm pretty sure that won't come into play at all later on, right? Rick says Lee Chuck is apparently connected to every major disaster for the past 100 years, so the two immediately take on the case. At the jewelry store, Angel runs into Prager, who's bitching about how she handled the hostages. She goes inside to snoop around and stops to see the tape outline of Rob. Do cops normally outline survivors of a crime scene? While distracted, the glowing statue eye flies into her purse. She hears a noise and pulls aside a curtain to find Asian Colonel Sanders? Later on at the Golden Regatta, Rick introduces Angel to Inspector Charles Chang. And yes, that's actually the name the movie gives him. Charles says the ninjas were sent by Lee Chuck to obtain the Eyes of Avatar, a pair of jewels that store the power of Dragon God. Over time, the eyes were separated and lost, and any person who brings the two together again will rule as Dragon God, and Lee Chuck already has one. Naturally, Angel is super skeptical. Charles then tells of the cult leader, Sin Du, who lives on a private island and is connected to Lee Chuck. Haven't lost anybody, have I? Back at her apartment, Angel looks over a picture of Rob. The doorbell rings and it's two cops to let Angel know that Rob has died, although they don't actually say anything at all. Apparently this is because the director couldn't afford to pay a pair of extras to talk on film. She angrily throws a punch and we immediately cut to her punching the head off of a training dummy. She demands Rick tell her everything he knows about Sin Du and he spills his guts. They think he's building an army of trained assassins by inviting recruits to his island under the guise of a fighting tournament. But none are told it's just a one-way trip. Angel insists on signing up, but Rick says he only accepts groups of 3. For some reason. So Angel hits the road to look for her team. First stop, a Native American reservation where a chief is chanting alone. She asks where to find White Star, and he points to the fire. She sits down with a newspaper and feather, and the Native American disappears. She calls out to White Star saying she needs help and casts the feather into the fire. A puff of smoke, an arrow flies, and a frilly, busty hottie rides in on horseback. Where can I get one of those feathers? Cut to the two ladies at a dive bar going over the details, and White Star says she already has their third member in mind. As they leave, a couple of dipshit rednecks decide to introduce themselves to our ladies.
Hey there, chickies!
Get him.
Unfortunately, the jerks won't take no for an answer, and Angel karate chops the windshield while White Star chucks a throwing star into the tire before stuffing the good old boys into their trunk. Off we go to the ladies' jail where it's time for the wonderfully coiffed inmates to watch a rumble in the dirt.
You always let them fight like that?
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
The blonde is Heather, our third recruit, and she's taking on the leather-clad Whiplash. The two roll around a lot, ending up precariously close to the convenient mud puddle. One inmate tries to break up the fight and gets her shirt ripped off in the process. Heather falls ass first into the mud. Whiplash picks up a giant rock, and Heather takes off her shirt to use as a whip. One good punch to the face, and Whiplash takes a mud bath. And since we're all dirty and messy, we gotta get cleaned up in the shower for some steamy, soapy exposition. Apparently, Angel is the one who put Heather away for the crime of Stealing a train and dropping a 2-car garage onto a police station. However the hell one would do that. She's up for parole in a year, but Angel says they can bump that up sooner if she joins the team. Naturally, she's totally up for it. Jump to the nearby temple where our ladies go to sign up. Angel puts down the newspaper with the ad from Sindhu himself, but the giant ponytail recruiter points to the filled sign-up sheet. Heather forces him to cross off 3 names. After a little karate posing, he puts their names on the list. We then get whatever the hell this is. A giant pair of eyebrows escorts the latest round of fighters onto the plane as Rick drives Angel to the airport. Rick thinks she's being ridiculous, but he can't really stop her from going. Once back at his car, he realizes Angel forgot her purse and tries to run it back to her, but the plane has already taken off. We don't get to see the plane land, but we do get to see a smoldering island on par with some middle school science fair volcanoes. The ladies are led to the Terrordrome?
Deep in the jungle, you discover it, the Cobra Terrordrome, with gun emplacements almost everywhere and special base for refueling vehicles. Cobra Terrordrome comes with fire bat and pilot, other figures and equipment sold separately.
Once inside, we immediately go through orientation with Koro, beginning with a walkthrough, a full body scan, and intimate physical examination. We have the naked smoke room, laser dentistry, cavity search, magical glowy cleavage probe, orgasm ray. Eventually, one of the girls is found with a device hidden in her ear, and Koro immediately snaps her neck. White Star says,
You're a dead man.
After the introductory procedures, Koro shows the ladies to their room. Angel starts getting ready for bed, but doesn't notice a wall panel open up. Back in the States, we get to see Rick's pathetic apartment where he's drifting off to sleep in front of the TV. Angel's purse begins to glow and smolder. Holy shit! Playboy, mad, and cracked? What is this guy? Me in 1989? Rick grabs his gun and notices the gemstone putting on a laser Judas Priest show. He mutters that he'll be on his way to Angel. Angel's lying in bed when she notices a large tarantula crawling up her leg. The lucky bastard gets to wriggle over her panties, up her belly, and just begins to cop a feel when she smashes it with a book, showing that it was actually a machine. Angel then does her best Deadpool impression.
I hate robot spiders.
Next day, it's time for some training, which means top-heavy beauties jogging and doing jumping jacks. God bless you, Jim Wynorski. God bless you. Karate busted lumber, spear throwing, and more jumping jacks. On the archery range, Heather smells something bad, but it's just White Star's fishy-smelling, fish. Apparently, mackerel is good for warding off evil spirits. The ladies talk about how the guards keep a pretty close eye on them during training and agree that some nighttime snooping is in order. A pair of inept guards get taken down and the ladies steal their outfits. The master is watching from his security room and notices the nearly naked guards lying unconscious. He tells Koro,
"Put the new man on it."
The alarms go off and we see White Star make her way into the forest, followed shortly by some guards, and a very hairy set of legs. While running, a hand reaches up and grabs White Star. The lady identifies herself as Cindy Blake, and White Star recognizes her as a girl who disappeared months ago. Cindy says she's seen enough of Sindhu to know the rumors of him being more than a cult leader are true, and that the losers of the tournament are sold into slavery, which is what she was attempting to escape from. White Star notices Cindy's ankle is broken and goes to find wood for a splint, but she's not gone very long before Cindy is found by Sindhu's pet gorilla. White Star watches helplessly from the shadows as she's carried back to the compound. Next day, she tells the others what she saw, and Angel says they'll have to act on it later. Koro comes down to lead the group in worship of Lee Chuck. Meanwhile, Sindhu watches on his monitors, taking a particular liking to White Star. Understandable. After some silly pageantry, Angel is given a sword and shield and put into a fight to the death. She smacks her opponent around with the shield for a while, but eventually gets knocked down. Back on her feet, her sword and shield are knocked from her hands, but the opponent underestimates her and gets a sword through his head. Sindhu is very upset that his best man was taken down so easily. Koro gives White Star a dinner invitation from Sindhu, and holy shit! Inside, Sindhu is petting his snake and offers White Star a seat. Meanwhile, Angel drops another guard for his outfit. I'm curious how many times this is going to happen before it gets reported. She attempts to drop another guard, but oh, it's Heather, who had the same idea, and the two go off together. And yet, somewhere else on this island, Rick shows up in scuba gear. What, did he fucking swim to the island? He falls on his ass and is immediately taken captive. Angel and Heather make it to the prisons and find all the girls who are to be sold into slavery. Screams come from the other room, and Angel recognizes Prager, the shitty cop from earlier. He's attempting to have his way with Cindy, and Angel vows the island will run red with blood. Back at dinner, Sindhu says White Star's competition has ended and has been invited to stay on the island forever. That's when Sindhu begins to take off his clothes, which, I don't know, bathe White Star in smoke, and suddenly she's thrust into a sweaty, steamy room with the luckiest goddamn snake that ever existed. Outside, Koro gathers the remaining girls to be addressed by Sindhu himself. The girls don't seem too impressed, but that's probably because they don't realize Sindhu is Angus fucking Scrimm! He speaks poetically about a shark showing up on his island and killing his guards, but that very same shark brought him exactly what he wanted, the second eye of Avatar. Great job, Rick. Now Sindhu has both of them, and they put on a killer light show when brought together. Rick is then brought to the stage. Back in the dining hall, the nosy guard finds a half-naked White Star on the table and goes in for a closer look. The guard climbs on top of White Star, who immediately attacks, dropping the horn dog to the floor. Sindhu says that he is in service of a darker and greater being, and that he has developed a weapon that will harness the power of the eyes of Avatar. Tomorrow, when it's fully assembled, it will be capable of incinerating anyone who doesn't bow to him. He then asks Angel to do the honors in taking care of Rick in battle, but to save the killing blow for himself. Rick insists that Angel hit him to save her from the guards, and she hesitates at first, but cracks him in the nose a couple of times to make it look convincing. Unfortunately, Sindhu isn't fooled by the charade and orders Koro to kill them both. But before he can, White Star approaches with her bow and fires an arrow straight into Koro's heart. The other girls use this as the moment to attack the guards. Angel and Rick chase after Sindhu, while Heather and White Star stay and fight. Angel easily takes out the guards stationed outside Sindhu's room and goes inside. That's when Angel reveals that Sindhu and Lee Chuck are one and the same. She then tells him he's almost out of time to get his daily soul for his master, but Lee Chuck says 5 minutes is more than enough to put her away for good. He flings a throwing star at her that bounces off her collarbone. She grabs a spear and stabs him in the stomach, but he just laughs it off and throws it right back at her. Angel pops Lee Chuck in the face, which causes him to reel back for a moment, ripping the flesh in two and revealing his true form, which is a little more horrific. Angel retreats at the sight, and he uses some yellow force lightning to bind her to restraints. Lee Chuck says she will have the honor of being the first victim of his ultimate weapon.
Does that make you horny?
Not now, Austin.
Seriously though, did it have to be so obviously phallic? But it's not enough to test it out on her. Lee Chuck has to demonstrate on a display case of weapons first. You know, because there's so much time left to get his sacrifice. Suddenly, Cindy shows up with a gun and puts a few useless bullets into Lee Chuck. He fires up the laser and vaporizes the poor girl. Which, I say, should have been Lee's 1 soul a day quota, but I guess it can only be the person who's chained up. Honestly, I'm here for the giant-breasted, ass-kicking ladies, not logic or continuity. Lee turns the laser to Angel, but before he can fire, Rick shows up and takes Lee's head clear off. But he's immortal, so the head just keeps on talking until the day is over and Lee's master takes what is owed. And now with the master dead, there's nothing to do but clean up the mess. Rick goes topside to start making his official sanction on the island, and Angel is attacked by Prager. He throws an axe at Angel, but misses and sets the laser to auto-fire mode. He runs up to fight, but gets blasted in the dick and set ablaze. The rest of the gang checks on Angel and decide to get the hell off of the island before the out-of-control laser destroys them all. On the way out, White Star comes face-to-face with Lee Chuck's pet gorilla and kicks him square in the balls. Rick gets all the surviving girls on the plane and evacuates just as the island starts exploding and sinking into the sea. But before it's gone, Lee Chuck's voice calls out, vowing that he will return. And that's The Lost Empire. Actually quite entertaining for a movie that was never supposed to be seen. As mentioned earlier, this was the directorial debut of Jim Wynorski. Some of his other directorial efforts include Chopping Mall, Deathstalker 2, Not of This Earth, The Return of Swamp Thing, The Haunting of Morella, and 967 Evil 2. But he's still adding to his credits, which, as of this recording, are over 100. Raven De La Croix played our wisecracking native hottie, White Star, but was also credited as her character's costume designer. She got started in the Russ Meyer movie Up, but was also in the teen sex comedy Screwballs. Cora was played by Robert Tessier and is one of those faces you probably recognize but might not know the name. He was also in The Longest Yard, Star Crash, The Sword and the Sorcerer, Future Force, and Fertilize the Blaspheming Bombshell. And even I missed this one the first time I saw it, but Cindy Blake, the poor girl who broke her ankle trying to escape and was raped by Prager only to be vaporized by the laser, was played by Linda Shay. She, along with Jim Wynorski, wrote Screwballs. But of course we have to talk about Sin-Do Lee Chuck himself, Angus Scrimm. Naturally most famous as the Tall Man from the Phantasm series, Angus was very well known as the giant gentleman on set. Other credits of his include Scream Bloody Murder, Witch's Brew, Chopping Mall, Subspecies, Mind Warp, Munchie and Munchie Strikes Back, Wishmaster, one episode of Masters of Horror, and I Sell the Dead. I'm still holding out hope that one day we'll get the Tall Man in Dead by Daylight. I think he'd fit in well. Well, creepy ones, that brings us to the end of another erroneous episode, but never fear, this is definitely not the end. For as long as cinema is being shot, there will always be a basement to stash the trash. Scores of sickly schlock are still slithering your way. And until I darken your dismal doorstep once again, this is your old pal Sugar Pants. See you in your dreams.
Why, hello there, flyboy. This is just not my day.